Thought that track was a little longer. Oh, right, there's the heartbeat. Right, okay. Just wrote this track last week. You'd think I'd remember it. Poor Tom. Poor Tom. Poor me. Let's unplug that. I don't need it anymore. Welcome, one and all, to another session of Artifact by Jack Harrison from Mousehole Press. Pardon me while I get my wits about me. I didn't have time to go over my last session, so I have no idea where I am. So we're going to find out together. This is a game for those of you who are just joining me for the first time. It's a solo RPG where you play a magical artifact, and you follow this artifact. You play as the artifact, and you follow a journey through time, handed down from various owner to various owner. And this is the third session. We started in a mystical library, and this tome was penned by Masked Lutherian, who was looking into tea research and accidentally stumbled on magic potion recipes and started detailing them in this private notebook in order to keep them safe. Masked Lutherian determined potion recipes for healing, for strength, for speed, and for poison, and put them into these pages, and the book itself began to take on magical properties. Now, a rogue without a master, a young apprentice, came to this library to learn the trade, and seeing how valuable this tome could be, made off with it under an assumed identity, and changing many identities over the years, somehow managed to gain the tome's trust, and was even able to add new versions of potion recipes to the tome. And they were friends, they were close, the tome, and as she was known at the time, Clarissa Hawley. And she came into the employ of a lord of the area, High Lord Thromby. And, because she was a rogue, she started working in her tomes and doing little magical things around and keeping everyone healthy and safe. But she did also manage to come up with a sleeping potion that could be aerosolized and was able to put the entire household to sleep and make off with all of their treasures. The Lord, of course, sent his guards after her, gave chase, and she unfortunately, in getting away from one of the many occasions that the guards were chasing her, dropped the tome and lost it. The guards took the tome home to the Lord, who gave it to his son. No account, nothing of a man named Nigel Thromby, who became very frustrated that he couldn't actually use the tome. The tome had no trust for this Nigel and missed Clarissa something terrible. And so every time Nigel would try and read the tome, the words would swim around on the page and defeat him. And so he split the tome in two and threw it into the privy. And a year passed. So the way this game works, you start with your object, and then you find your keeper, and you describe them, and you describe various adventures that you may have together, and then they lose you in some respect. And then after time, a new keeper finds you. Now, at the end of last session, the second keeper had lost me, and a year had passed, and so I get to explore a new game mechanic that I haven't tried before. This is the game mechanic of moving acts. So the first act is over, and I get to move forward from newly forged to a time of glory. So now I will choose a new keeper. Choose a keeper from below and resolve them following the process on page 4, summarized here. So, I don't know of these 4 who might the tome end up with, so I'm going to pull out a trusty D4 and let fate decide, as it so often does. And that is a 2. So an all-conquering warlord. Interesting. So now I get to spin and figure out how an all-conquering warlord finds a book that's been torn in half and thrown in a privy. So, describe the keeper and your acquisition. So I think before I describe the keeper, I should probably detail the acquisition. See, if you know anything about privies in the time of privies, you know that privy diggers are a thing, and they come and empty out. It's like having your septic tank emptied out. So you call the privy diggers, and they'll come make your privy more usable by taking out some of the old stuff. And privies were used as general all-around dumpsters back in the day. It wasn't just for bodily trash, it was for everything, which is why you find so many people digging privies will find old pottery and old bottles and often lots and lots of tobacco products, things like that. So the privy diggers come, of course, at the behest of Lord Thromby, because it's time, and they pull out the muck, and one privy digger, young to it, finds that he's still entertained by the concept of pulling trash out of the privy. Young apprentice privy digger thinks that he's going to find some great treasure in the privy of these lords. Obviously, the lords have the best trash, and so something that they're going to throw away might still be worth a pretty penny. So often we'll actually pay attention to and go through some of the things that are being dug up. So this young privy digger, we'll call him Woolham. He's not the new keeper. He finds 2 halves of what is clearly a book, and doesn't think much of it, but thinks, possibly this is something that someone might have interest in. And so through contacts in the village, we'll find someone who is interested in old books who might want to restore it. And Willem will clean it up. Cleans as best they can. So Willem takes the book to someone who gives him a few coppers for it. Oh, this is an interesting find because you don't... and let me see it. And knows that it has some magical properties. And so rips Willem off. The bookseller will call Bobel. And Bobel restores the book the best he can. Mostly he just puts a new binding on it and tries to sew the pages back together, but otherwise doesn't attempt to read it, sees that the pages are basically blank to him, and apart from knowing that it has some magical properties, doesn't understand what the book is. Now, he's a magical bookseller in a D&D type world, so of course at some point adventurers come through these shops from time to spend their hard-earned dungeoneering gold. And one of these people that comes through is the henchman of a very powerful dark paladin. This is one of those, he's got one of those stupid helmets that has, like, a bone-shaped eye hole in it, and then, like, has some decorative horns that jut out from the helmet, and maybe a few spikes for no good reason, even though that makes the helmet actually less effective because you're just asking someone to beat your head with various implements. And, he's got pauldrons with spikes. He's doing the None More Goth sort of dark paladin route. And he demands that everyone call him Sir, despite the fact that no lord has ever actually knighted him. He's just taken it upon himself to give himself the title. What is his name? Sir... Sir Clabham. Clabhamdor. But his henchmen secretly call him Clobberdor behind his back. Because of, at one point, early in his dungeoneering career, when he decided to use a brute strength check against a magically locked door and actually did himself 2d6 worth of damage from the impact that he bestowed upon it. So, Clobberdor. That's our Dark Paladin. So, his henchman... Farrell brings him this magical book that has been restored. It's been sitting in shit alone for a year, and then handed off from person to person who didn't take any interest in it. Now, Sir Clabhamdor is a dark paladin. He follows a dark path, and he wants power. But he's not unreasonable, and he's not He's not stupid. He understands a thing of power when he sees it. And when he sees the book, he recognizes something that is worth way more than the 5 gold his henchman paid for it. What's more, he respects it. He respects any power greater than his own. Sure, maybe he wants to absorb that power and take it as part of his own, but he does at least respect it. And so he spends time with the book. What have we got here? I can't read. Answer the keeper's questions. Fantastic. They are feared and adored in equal measures. Describe their empire and the armies they rule it with. So over time, Sir Clabam Dor spends much time with the book. He goes over every inch of it. He tries to clean it at night. He gives as much care to this book as he gives to his trusty war axe, as he gives to his helmet, as he gives to his henchman, who he treats firm but fair. He's a dark paladin. He's not evil. He's just in search of power. So he cleans and restores, to the best of his knowledge and abilities, spends time getting to know the book. And in time, the book gets to know him. And the book understands his need for power. And the book, having been so rudely, horribly treated by his last few encounters with humans, he doesn't mind the idea of the one human who has shown him respect, the one human who has actually treated him with the respect that he deserves. Not sure why I'm giving the tome a masculine pronoun at this point. That may shift in time. Yes, the tome begins to open itself up, both literally and metaphorically, to Sir Clabam Dor, and the words once swimming on the page to previous owner is now clear. And the tome tests the warlord. The tome tests Sir Clabam Dor, who rises to the challenge. It is important to note that this book is fickle and paranoid and does not trust humans at all. But it is also loyal. It is loyal once you have earned its trust. It will follow you as you follow it. And so Clabam Dor begins to make potions. He starts with healing potions, which he gives to his henchmen after battles. And they work. They work as well as any healing potion from a shop, which only makes his henchmen more loyal. Not only are they getting good pay for these conquests of smaller kingdoms, but also their dark paladin lord is taking care of them, is making sure that they survive. And in the world of henchmanning, that's something. That's really something. That's a way of getting loyalty from your people. And so he gains more loyalty and he gains more followers. And then he continues to respect and really listen to the things that the tome is teaching him. And so he learns more. He learns about sleep potions and he learns about poisons. And he learns how to make Clarissa's sleep bomb. And so, with the powers given to him by the tome, which, because of the faded L on its cover, he begins calling the Lord of Knowledge. He is able to use the mystical magics in the tome to help him build his empire. Now I get to answer an artifact question. Artifact questions. Over time you gain a name or honorific. What is it and why? I accidentally just answered that already. It's funny how this game does that. This is multiple times now where I've found that, oh, well, that question is the thing that I was just talking about. So I think I just did that. So yes, this tome is now known as the Lord of Knowledge. I don't think Sir Clapham would write on the cover. Not yet. But he would probably clean it up a bit. In his time. Really should have drawn this on 2 pages so I could stitch it back together again. Live and learn. Everything's a puppet show. Consider how the keeper loses you. Oh. So I think the Lord of Knowledge assists Sir Clapham Door for years. I think they're together for many years. I think that it takes the Dark Paladin a good 5 years just to establish his kingdom. And then another 10 years of ruling. During which time he becomes more and more obsessed with just spending time with the tome. Spending time with the Lord of Knowledge, understanding every secret, and maybe, just maybe, imparting some knowledge of his own. He starts building a lab. He starts trying to make his own recipes. And of course, they fail at first. But he spends more and more time, and the Lord of Knowledge guides him and helps him. And over time, he is finally able to scribble the loose concepts of a potion of intelligence. Just before he is overthrown by his neglected second-in-command. Miradan the Dark. Lots of dark in this one. It's a gloomy, gloomy story. He's overthrown and expelled because of how good he always was to his people. He is allowed to live. And he is allowed to keep the tome, and the tome alone. One shirt, one shoe, and his book. And he is distraught and weak and has been in his lab for too many years. And unfortunately, he dies alone, shivering, wet, clutching the Lord of Knowledge to his chest underneath a log in the forest. Far away from anywhere. How long does it take? You're late, Ebats. We're long past the privy. How long does it take for a human body to decompose? I should know that off the top of my head. I'm going to try desperately not to metagame here, because I look at this, how much time has passed, and I see a century, and I see that I get to do stuff, but I don't think it's going to be a century. I do think that it's a decade, though. So, the way this game works, I now get to take some time, close my eyes, and rest for 1 minute to symbolize a decade passing. That's where we're going to call it for tonight. I'm very looking forward to finding out who finds the skeleton in the woods clutching a book and decides to make it their own. If you enjoy this game, please do go look for it. Jack Harrison just had another successful Kickstarter for a similar game that is about a spaceship, and I'm very much looking forward to that one. But for now, you can go get PDF copies of the game, or even link to the Kickstarter, where I would bet you can probably still get some copies over on the website. And that, of course, I need to also say very much thank you to them for supplying a marvelous soundtrack by Christopher Michael Roberts that has different tracks of lovely ambient music for every length of time that your artifact rests. That's it for this week. I will be back next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, barring unforeseen circumstances. And if you have missed any of these, you can catch the more recent episodes here on Twitch. And have I actually done the thing where I set up the correct link? Yes, haha, yes, I did do the thing. You can also catch older episodes on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.